Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today it's early morning. My voice is a little raspy. Everybody always makes comments when I do commentaries in the morning. It's just because my voice hasn't had enough time to sort of warm up. I haven't had enough nerd rage going on yet today, so still a little raspy. But we haven't done a mailbox in a while, and I've still got all your questions from the previous mailbox. It's been over a month actually, and I really want to get back to this series. I've just been so busy covering the new expansion in Battlefield and Planetside 2, which has taken up a huge amount of time. I've got both Battlefield and Planetside 2 footage in this video, so let's get started. First question today comes from Ander Jeans, not sure how you say your name there. Level, do you think it would be a good idea if DICE added 2 mechanics to their next Battlefield 3 title, being 1. Swimming underwater and using the damage module for fire, but instead for air because I feel it isn't cool that the so-called BF3 Marines can die for a little to save their skins, taking bullet deviation as an advantage. 2. An animation just like getting up from prone or vaulting, but this time for running and jumping through glass and plywood. I think it's dumb to knife glass. Have a nice day. I think these are both really interesting, really good ideas that should definitely be explored. You know, there's so much that we could still do with the Battlefield series to make it new and innovative. Surprisingly, swimming isn't really a big part of it, and I think it really could be. You know, swimming underwater would be great. It would be cool to have a class that could maybe dive deeper, and you could have more ways to access certain bases. It seems like it might be more of an expansion pack option. You know, swimming is not that common in most urban combat areas, so it would have to be like something that pertained more to the ocean. But yeah, I think it is silly that you can't swim underwater. Granted, you do have a lot of gear on you as a soldier, so actually swimming around carrying your gun and ammo packs and giant backpack and all that kind of stuff seems a little bit ridiculous, but at the same time, it also seems silly that you can't just simply go underwater. As for the second notion of creating an animation for jumping through glass or plywood, I actually like that idea. It does seem really dumb that you take out a knife and slash at glass. I've always preferred shooters where you use the butt of your gun as opposed to a quick knife pull to take down your opponents. You know, Halo was cool where you had to really bash people with your weapon a few times. I think it would be more realistic if you were to bash plywood or glass with, say, your gun to break it first. In real life, if you're going to jump through some plate glass, you're probably going to get cut up really bad. But then again, if you're going for the more run and gun crazy action shooter, having an animation for jumping through glass or plywood would be very cool. I'm going to lean more towards the realism aspect and say I wish they would just let you bash stuff with your gun instead, which would probably be the more realistic option for a soldier to take on the battlefield. Next question comes from Lyric Client. Would you permit your child to play FPS? If yes, which age? Alright, well, it's hard to do theoretical parenting, but I have to say it depends. You know, I think if you're going to let your kid play violent video games, they have to show a good understanding that they can, you know, differentiate video games from reality, and they can show an understanding that it's not real and that hurting people and violence and that kind of thing is not something that you should try and integrate to your everyday lifestyle. Obviously, video games are fiction. Guys, especially boys, like violence and action and all that stuff. And I wouldn't want to deprive my kid from that. It's just something that you got to play by ear. You know, every kid's different. Their understanding of the world, their maturity is different, and I think you just gotta watch, observe, and see when it seems like an appropriate age to let them start getting into some of the more violent forms of media. Next question comes from FFS2K. What do you think about decreasing the points medics get for revives? For any other class, you need to get a kill to get that amount you get from a revive. No skill involved going around zapping people. Maybe 30 or 50 points for a revive. A lot of guys never play support or engineer because they don't get enough points. We end up with people who don't even have the good stuff unlocked for those classes. Engineers especially should get rewarded with lots of points for taking out or damaging vehicles. This is a good point and something that you know, I've brought up, a lot of other people have brought up on multiple occasions. the medic class, especially in infantry heavy maps, really does have a huge point advantage. You're surrounded by infantry that are bound to die at some point, and a revive is worth 100 points. That's a whole kill right there, and they're very quick, very easy to do. A few suggestions have been made by myself also to increase revival time or the difficulty of reviving to make it more worthwhile, and potentially decreasing the point value. I think a quick fix for it would be to make revives only worth 50 points. That way medics wouldn't top the scoreboard every single round, no matter what. Also, for taking out armor, it is actually a very hard thing to do as engineers. You know, when I play Engie, I end up dying a lot because I am risking myself going after tanks. You know, tanks are not easy to take down, especially if you don't have the right kind of cover, and they can often just kind of drive up on your position real quick, circle around you, find where you're not defended by cover, and take you out. You know, it can take a lot of rockets to take down a tank. So I definitely think taking out armor, perhaps as the engineer class, should be worth more points. There's ways that we could do it. But for a long time, I feel like the classes in Battlefield 3 have been far less balanced than they have in other video games. Next question comes from Michael Beckman. He says, "Hey LevelCap, what would be something awesome in Battlefield 4? We got jets in Battlefield 3, and what would be new to come in Battlefield 4? They now have everything in the game what a real war could have. I think it would be awesome to have the Navy get involved so you could fight underwater or something like that, and there would be much more boats and bigger boats. What is your look on that? What would you like to have new?" Well, if you ever played Battlefield 1942, they had boats, they had submarines, they had aircraft carriers, they had battleships, which you could drive. One person could drive a battleship. I think you could get a second gunner in there to control some of the cannons and the anti-air cannons, you know, destroyers, all that stuff. You could take control of the boats, and it was cool to look at visually. It was incredibly imbalanced. I mean, one dude in a battleship raining down death on, like, say, the island of Iwo Jima, just taking out tanks and tons of infantry. It was kind of insane. It was also a little bit boring. You know, submarine gameplay, not the most interesting thing in the world. So, to answer your question, you know, they've already been there with boats. I don't think it really fits in well with the current style of things nowadays, the way that things are going. People like constant action, they like strategy, good tactics. With giant naval warfare, I feel like that would slow down the game quite a lot. It's a cool, I'm sure it would look neat visually, but I think they need to keep the naval aspect of things sort of automated, like just having a carrier as a spawn point. I think Battlefield 4 should really work on refining the gameplay of Battlefield 3, polishing it up a bit, and figuring out really what represents Battlefield. Now, Battlefield 3 has been a nice little experiment, I would say, because all the expansions have been so different. We've got a huge variety of map styles and game modes and all that stuff. We're getting Capture the Flag in the next one, and it really seems like DICE is sort of throwing a lot of stuff out there and seeing what sticks. I hope they learn from this and start putting in the core gameplay elements much more to Battlefield 4 and refining those elements, balancing out classes, maybe even looking into the spawn stuff. So hopefully we can avoid big gimmicky things like naval warfare that just aren't going to play out too well and focus more on the core gameplay. So that's it for the questions for this mailbox. If you guys want to ask a question, go ahead and leave it in the comments down below, and I'll look at the top rated comments and answer the ones that I find interesting. Sorry if your questions didn't get rated. You know, I'm looking again for ones that get rated up. They don't necessarily have to be the top rated comments, but just ones that other people seem interested in, I'll take a look at. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.